Good evening, everyone. This is Molly. I'm here with Randy Schellenberg from ComforTek. Many of you may have been at the conference this past weekend, and it was an amazing event. Randy and I have just been talking about it and how it went and how successful we thought it was. So I hope that you guys were able to take advantage. Maybe some of you here won some of these grand prizes that they gave away over the weekend. They're very, very generous grand prizes. So I am going to give you a couple of pointers here. In the questions tab over on the right-hand side in your control panel, you can ask me questions about anything you may be having issues with, sound or your presentation or whatnot. I'll try and help you as best I can. Keep in mind that I will be sending the recording tomorrow, and so you will be able to see all of this again tomorrow. Otherwise, as we get towards the end, I'm sure Randy will give you a little bit of a heads up that he's going to finish up there, and then you guys can start typing in your questions and he can answer them towards the end of this presentation. Last time we went about 40 to 45 minutes. We might hit 30 to 40 minutes this time. So just to give you guys a heads up on how long the actual presentation will be. And then from there, after that, Randy is going to do another giveaway because they are so generous. So he's going to give away one of these chair caddies, like you see this caddy on the bottom of this chair here. And so I want all of you that are here to pick a number between 1 and 1,000 and use that questions area that I just talked about to type in your number. And then whoever gets closest to that number, we will go ahead and give away that generous prize at the end of this presentation. So Randy, thank you so much for being here. And I will remind people as they trickle in, because I know we'll probably have some more follow in, but go ahead and type in your numbers. And Randy, you go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Molly, and welcome. I had a very enjoyable time this past weekend at the RAL conference as we were one of the exhibitors, and we were able to give away several of the grand prizes. I've got about 17 slides that I'll go through. Several of the slides I'll actually read in full and sort of guide our conversation in that manner. On other ones, I'll just allow you to watch a video. And the theme that you're seeing right on our screen is what our emphasis is, and that is it's specialized seating for seniors and caregivers. And I trust that when we're done with our presentation that you'll understand the significance of what it is that we're trying to do for seniors and what it is that we're trying to do for those individuals that are providing the care for seniors, once they have lost, some of their mobility and their cognitive issues. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Again, we'll be giving a prize away at the end, and so please send in your guess in terms of a number between 1 and 1,000. I've got it recorded on my page, and after Molly at the end says end, I will show it up to the screen, and you'll see exactly what the number is, and we'll get a chair caddy off in that direction. Next slide, please, Molly. The question that we want to answer today is, how does a person with limited mobility get positioned up to and away from the table with ease and grace and without risk of injury to care staff? For starters, I'm just going to ask the question, why? Why is this of concern in terms of your world being a residential assisted living facility? And I'll answer it this way. Four-legged chairs have never been designed to move. A chair is designed to keep your tush off the floor. It requires a certain amount of friction between the four legs and the floor in terms of being able to stay upright. And so once somebody has lost the ability to scoot up to a table, now it becomes all about the caregiver. And so as a chair is not designed to move, we have to begin to answer that question. This process, this journey of aging, sometimes I refer to it as the journey to the gurney. I need to be a little careful with that statement. But this journey of aging robs us of some of our independence. It robs us of some of those things that we just took for granted, on a day-by-day basis as we were going through our teen years and into our adulthood. And one of them I'll propose to you is, how do you get seated? And those of us that are completely mobile, we will pull a chair away from a table, we will sit, and then we will simultaneously lift the chair and scoot forward. That's the way we get ourselves presented up to a table. Once you've lost the ability to sit, lift, and scoot forward, now you've run yourself into a problem. And so those are the reasons why we're looking at it. The other thing we need to understand fully is how does a person who's got some years of experience behind them, how do they actually get seated? Again, in our younger days, we have the ability of standing and sitting at will. But once we have a little difficulty with our knees, once we get to the point where maybe we're 300 plus pounds, as a goodly number of your clients probably are, there's an awful lot of using your hands. Getting into the chair, you will typically get partially down and then you'll drop in. And when you're getting out, it's a matter of using your hands. And so it's that awkwardness that we end up going through. And our goal is to try to make that easier and to provide an element of dignity and self-worth to individuals that are being seated. Next slide, please. So what we manufacture, there's another bottom part to that, Molly. Dining chairs are designed for persons with limited mobility, should include features which allow the chair to swivel, turn, roll, and lock for safety. By doing that, I trust you can appreciate that we eliminate the need on behalf of care staff to push and pull and shove and twist when moving a seated person up to a table. The challenge that we've had in terms of designing chairs as we have is that there are lots of chairs that swivel, turn, and roll. And right now you may be sitting on one that does that. Maybe it's an office chair, maybe it's a task chair, but those are not the critical functions because lots of chairs do that. But I would ask you, would you use the chair you're sitting in to accommodate a senior who's a little shaky on their feet, who's afraid of falling? And in most cases, the response is, well, no, this chair isn't safe because it rolls away prematurely. And so our challenge was to design a chair that was going to allow a seated person to be properly positioned for eating, to reduce the anxiety of how do you get them up to a table, to provide something that makes it easier for the caregiver, but never compromising safety. And so the swivel, turn, and roll functions are the easy ones. The challenge is how can you balance it with locking and so that you don't sacrifice the safety. And so that's exactly what we've tried to put into these particular chairs. Next slide, please. As a result of having chairs like this in the system. Next slide, sorry, Molly. Jammed up. Hello.
Did you see it?
There we are. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So sorry.
Nope. As a result of having chairs that do swivel, turn, and roll, here are some of the results that we end up with. Residents are more compliant with caregiver directives. Staff experience reduced workplace injuries. Dining chairs last longer because the frames, the structure of the chairs are not being challenged by being pushed and shoved. Floors do not have to be replaced or repaired as often. And interestingly, occupancy rates actually increase as families get to observe care in action. The last slide that we'll be looking at, or one of the very last slides, is actually a field study that's done at a provider in Kansas, and I think you'll hear some of his comments and find them to be most interesting. Next slide. Is it my internet connection? Oh, there we are. A little slow.
Yeah, I think it might be a little slow, so it just might be a little bit delayed. So maybe just tell me to switch before you're done talking.
Okay. So there's 3 slides. You can just go through them very quickly here. This is a typical residential assisted living facility. This particular one is showing individual tables, and we'll talk about the butterfly tables, and it allows you to be COVID sensitive if you need to have some separation. These are the T2 chairs, and we're going to be going through about 4 of these. We're going to watch some videos in terms of how these particular chairs operate. But you can see that the design of the chair is such that it's got a contemporary feel. The handhold at the top is designed to enable the caregiver to contact the chair and comfortably be able to assist the movement, etc. And then the chairs do some unique things. You'll see a little later on what the symbols mean. Some of these have a foot control, some of these have a hand control. And again, these features allow you to select a chair that matches the skill set or the needs of what your residents are. Next slide, please. The first chair that we're going to look at, and I'll just let you watch this one, is the swivel chair. This chair swivels and locks for safety. You can appreciate that the chair is turned from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Ed can be seated very comfortably. He could actually do this by himself if he wanted to. And it's just a matter of being able to turn the chair from 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock. On the way out, it's a matter again of just releasing the lock, swiveling at 90 degrees. It will lock automatically again at 3 o'clock, and now he can exit the chair. And so you can just appreciate that, you know, there's very little effort or work that's being done on behalf of the caregiver in terms of being able to walk that through. Next slide. The next slide is exactly the same chair. It has the same swivel action. We've just added the caddy onto the bottom of it. And what the caddy does is that it allows the chair to roll or go to rotate from 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock, but the actual caddy allows the person to be moved closer to the table. For Ed, that may not be required as much as others, but if you've got a resident that's up, you know, 100 pounds or 120 pounds, just by swiveling the chair, they may not feel that they're close enough to the table. And so the caddy system just allows that chair to be rolled forward. This particular chair has foot locks, and so that the resident is going to be safely positioned at the table when that's all said and done. Well, it doesn't look like our videos are working all that well today, Molly.
I've got them on my end. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, I just got a completely black screen where the video is.
Oh, okay, hold on. Let's go back. Let's see. I had it play through on my end.
Okay. So now you're at the next one. That's fine. We can go to the next one. We can come back.
This is the one with the caddy, right?
Well, this is a different one, but that's okay. Just let this one play. See if it'll work through. This particular chair isn't the swivel. It's strictly an armchair. It has a caddy. Oh, okay. You backed it up.
No, isn't that so strange? I don't know what's going on, why it's not playing back on your end. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Right now, my screen says that we're on slide 8 of 16. The chair is just swiveling up to the table. And now we're just going to move Ed all the way up to the table is what's going to happen. So you can appreciate again the limited amount of effort that's required. And I just went to a completely black screen again.
Yes, so that's what it looks like the end of the movie looks like on my end as well.
Okay. Just go to the next slide. Slide number 9. Okay. It'll say the CC1. Technology is not our friend today. There we are. The CC1 is a very unique chair in the marketplace in that this chair is always locked. The spring system and the brake system mean that the front wheels are always locked unless a caregiver is in command of the chair and they're depressing the lever that's attached to the back of the chair. And so Eva is the lady that's assisting in this particular case. So if you were to watch this video roll, you would see that she's holding on to it. And as she depresses the lever, it releases the brakes so that she can turn Ed in terms of bringing him up to a table. But should she get distracted, should she decide to leave the chair in a hurry, the moment she lets go, the front wheels again are locked. And so care facilities, rehab facilities really like this particular chair because they know that the chair, no matter where it is, it's safe. You can see right now that she is just depressing that bar, and that's exactly what allows that one to work. So this turns and rolls and locks for safety, but this one being unique is always locked unless a caregiver is in command of the chair. Next slide, please.
Did you see it change?
No, it's still on the CC1. It should go one more. It should go to slide number 10. There we are. Again, just depending on exactly what it is that you're looking for in your home, this again is an armed chair. It has the same caddy on it. It just doesn't have the hand controls. It has a foot brake. And so the controls of this particular one are down on the floor. And so again, the chair turns, it rolls, it locks for safety. It's just that the way that the brakes are applied here is that the brakes are applied to the rear wheels, not to the front wheels. So again, it just gives you an option in terms of multiple different price points, if that's what you're looking for, but it also allows you to address the actual needs of the residents that you have. And so that's exactly what this particular chair does. So this turns, rolls, and locks for safety with a foot control. Next slide. This slide features our chairs that are 24 and 30 inches wide. You may have residents that are just full size, and I mean, as soon as they're full size, you literally have no ability of being able to move them, to bring them up to a table. In fact, you may just say, hey, you have to stay in a wheelchair. That's the only option you have because we physically do not have enough strength to move you up to a table. Here we have a chair or two chairs that are 24, 30 inches wide, rated up to 500 pounds. They have foot locks. And so again, this particular chair turns and rolls and locks for safety. And again, the caregiver with relative ease is able to move the individual directly up to a table. So again, it's the same action, but it's the caddy that allows that particular thing to occur. So even if you've got large guests, they don't have to be limited to sitting in the wheelchair, or as we have heard from other providers, not necessarily residential providers, but other care homes that are saying, we can't accommodate your loved one because we don't have any equipment that's capable of being able to move them. And so that's what you're able to do with this particular chair. Next slide, please. You will recall in that earlier slide where I talked about a kitchen arrangement, a dining arrangement, where it should be slide number 12, Molly. This is still showing.
It's just delayed for some reason. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure why.
No. It's called technology.
I know.
When we looked at the dining room, you could see we had chairs or tables that were there in terms of being COVID friendly. What we have is a series of tables where the tops all lift independently. And again, the video today may not show it clearly. You certainly can look at it afterwards, and I'll give you another link to it. But each of these tops can be adjusted to the height of a particular resident that you have. Even if you have somebody sitting in a standard chair, if they're 5'1", their torso does not allow them to easily reach up to a tabletop that's 30 inches high. And so with this particular configuration, you can actually adjust the table to the height that they need to have. Nothing discourages people from wanting to serve themselves and eat themselves, other if they risk dripping over themselves or making themselves look foolish because of how they have to handle food. And if you can adjust the tabletop that matches the individuals, it just gives them that sense of dignity and self-worth that there is a possibility that they can continue to feed themselves. The tables come as a two-person table, and then there's two different four-person configurations that you can have in that application. Next slide, please. You can play all three of them. Thank you. Who benefits? There are significant benefits that end up happening on a number of fronts with this particular furniture, and I'll just go through these. The first column there, we talk about the CEO or the administrator, and that is that there's fewer workplace injuries, which means that there's less workers' compensation claims and absenteeism and overtime because staff are able to be at work. There's less issues of being injured. There's certainly less stress and anxiety. And the interesting thing is it's not just stress and anxiety for the caregiver, it's also for the resident. And then furniture lasts significantly longer. So chairs and floors do not have to be replaced as often. The administrator, the director of nursing, is looking at creating a safer workplace, a more enjoyable mealtime routine, a healthier work environment, and a better retention of staff and residents. Because again, as we've talked about it before, we're actually getting to demonstrate or show care in action. And as important as those two are, the families and the residents also feel it. And that is that they see and experience an increased sense of dignity and self-worth. And so, we often talk about a win-win situation. We don't want to have a win-lose. What you really have here is you have a win-win-win situation in terms of everybody being able to benefit from the fact that we've got chairs that are designed to recognize the needs of what your residents have. Next slide. So within your community, just ask yourself the question, how many residents require the use of a walker in terms of getting around? If I'm using a walker and I'm approach a dining table, not only do we have the 4 legs of the dining chair, but we also have the 4 wheels of the caddy, plus myself being the person trying to be seated. There's just an awful lot of stuff that's happening. And so making it easy for them to be able to be seated and then moved up to a table is a significant benefit. How many residents do you have that are 300 pounds plus, or maybe you turn those residents away because you don't have a very easy way of being able to accommodate them? That may be something you're looking at. How many residents sit in a wheelchair simply because the caregivers have no way of being able to bring them up to a table? And that speaks again to occupancy, because most of the decisions for people moving into a residential assisted facility is always going to be done by a family member, etc. So what are they seeing and observing in terms of how you're providing the service? How many residents require specialized attention because of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's? At one time, we actually talked about this chair as being an Alzheimer's chair. Attending a number of caregiving sessions. When it comes to individuals with Alzheimer's and dementia, it's develop a relationship bond. Have a relationship with individuals as long as you can. And if you watch more of the videos that we have available, the care staff, they don't have to put effort in pushing or shoving or twisting you up to a table. Rather, they can be bending over, they can be chatting, they can be commenting on your dress, on your tie, on your blouse, the fact that this is your favorite food, and then you can bring people up to a table. So, again, the statement from individuals that provide instruction for people that have dementia and Alzheimer's is develop a relationship bond, reduce the stress and anxiety for everybody. And so those would be questions that you can ask yourself in terms of the residents that you have. Next slide, please. We've got, there'll be 3 slides that we have left in terms of it. Here's a comment from the field study, and I'll just read what's on the screen so that you can see exactly what we're talking about. Tours typically occur during meal times, and a complete set of mobility dining chairs was placed into the dining room. And the rationale of this administrator was that he did not want staff pushing or shoving a seated person up to a table. By demonstrating a high level of patient-centered care in the dining room, even for residents with limited mobility, family members can expect the same level of care to be shown by his staff throughout the rest of the care community. And so if tours are a part of what you're doing, if you're accommodating them, I just encourage you to have a coffee time, have a meal time towards the end. It would just be so valuable in terms of them being able to say, how did you do that? Ooh, that looked relatively easy. Can I do that? And you'd be surprised how engaged people become when they see this particular type of thing in action. Next slide. The next slide again is just a summary of the chairs that we've looked at. If I can just kind of guide you through it, in the first column, the second chair. That was the very first chair that we looked at, the first video. That particular chair swivels and locks for safety. Probably the safest chair that we have because there's no wheels on the floor and it locks every 90 degrees. If you go to the second column, the top chair, that was the chair that turns, rolls, and locks for safety, and that's the one that's always locked. And so the controls for that particular chair are on the top of the back of the chair, and so the caregiver has the ability of being able to move that chair and at will. All the way down in that same column, so column 2, third row, that is the bariatric chair. And so we've got chairs there that again that are up to 24 and 30 inches wide, and they are again able to allow you to move a seated person up to a table. Column 3, the middle picture, that was the second video that we watched. So this particular chair also swivels, but because it has the caddy on the bottom, you can actually help move that particular person right up to the table. So they can be positioned exactly as they need to be. If you look at that whole middle row, you can see that every other picture there's a footstool. And so on that row, each of those chairs can also come at a 20-inch seat height. 18 is our standard, but those particular chairs also come at a 20-inch seat height. It's just easier for a person to get into a higher seat and out of a higher seat. And I ask you just to look at a parking lot and say, how many cars do you see in the parking lot as opposed to SUVs? There's just something about keeping your bum above your knees that makes it easy to get into and get out of. That being said, it's short people that are quite often asking for the chair with the elevated seat, but then the tendency is that their legs can fall asleep because there's too much pressure right underneath their legs. And so we provide a footstool. And so there's a footstool that will go underneath the table, and so they can rest their feet on there and enjoy the meal time. And then, after the chair swivels and turns away, then the footstool stays right underneath the table. And then all the way to the bottom of that particular one is the butterfly table. And the video that you were seeing is the one at the far corner, column 4, row 3. Typically, it's the 2-person table that is more suitable in terms of the residential assisted living community. In the chat box, we'll put a link to a video. I didn't include it in this particular one, and that is of the chair caddy. And so column 4, the first item, that is a retrofit caddy. That is a unique patented product. It fits underneath almost any chair. It's adjustable in size, and it will allow you to attach that unit to your existing chair. That's the prize that we're giving away today at the end of the presentation. And so if you are the lucky winner of that, we'll be sending you a schematic just in terms of telling us the size of your chair. We'll adjust it to that particular size, and then we'll get it sent off in your particular direction. Last slide, please. ComforTek seating. It's specialized seating for seniors, yes, but it's also caregivers. The focus that we have tried to put onto chairs is recognizing that in this journey of aging, we lose our mobility, and so it all becomes about the person who stands behind the chair. And so our focus has been focused on that person, and because of that, we've got some designs that are unique, things that other chair manufacturers don't have, because typically the focus is on the person that's seated in the chair. And what we're saying is that really the focus for seniors is the individual that stands behind the chair. So I trust you were able to see that in terms of what we have. In the chat line, you're going to see several different links. There'll be a link there for that The caddy, you can watch that one. There's a link there to our e-commerce site. There's a notation in there that as a member of RAL, Residential Assisted Living Organization, that there is a discount code that you can use. And there's also a telephone number in there that if you're looking at saying, we need to replace all of the chairs in our venue, and you're looking at purchasing more than 3 chairs, freight is fairly expensive. We can work with you in that regard. And so there's a telephone number that you can use in terms of being able to give us a call. I trust this was helpful for you. We started by asking the question, how does a person with mobility limitations get moved up to a table? We're hoping that what we've been able to do for you is to answer that in terms of we can do it with ease, we can do it with grace, and we can do it with dignity and self-worth for the person that's seated in the chair. I appreciate your time and your interest. Molly, are there any questions that I need to respond to?
Well, I have something that I want you to mention. So, he mentioned at the end there that, you may want to replace all of your chairs. You recently got somebody that called you and said, hey, I have 5 of these homes. I'm tired of replacing my chairs, basically from their caregivers dragging the chairs across the floor all the time. And so how many did they buy from you? How many chair sets?
We've got a number of comments. Typically, we will say that in a big box facility, in a large provider type setting, they will quite often say that chairs can last between 5 and 7 years. In a smaller residential setting, we actually have one provider in New York that says, I replace chairs every 10 months. And so it's obviously the type of clients that she caters to, but there's just a hardness in terms of being able to put it together. So the customers that are getting back to us are replacing anywhere between 40 and 80 of their chairs. And what they're just saying is that we need to have a mobility option in terms of being able to put that together.
Yeah, so absolutely. Once again, if anybody came in late, we're doing a drawing for a chair caddy. You need to pick a number between 1 and 1,000, and you can put it inside the questions tab. If you guys want to reach out directly to the team that works here with Randy at ComforTek, you can reach out via the phone number that's in the chat tab. So if you see the tab below the questions tab, it's a couple down, it says chat, and it'll have a telephone number. It'll give you a video for the caddy that we're talking about, and it'll also give you the website with the discount code in case you want to go and look at the other chairs and things like that they have available. So if anybody has any questions, you can type them in now. Otherwise, Randy, do you want to show your number right now and we can go through?
Hey, if you're going to say closed in terms of you've got all the submissions in, I'll just hold the number up to the camera and away we go.
I think I do. I got a lot of numbers here. All right, what is it? 359. Okay, let's look. 359. And meanwhile, let's have you talk a little bit about what is the reason you started this.
The ComforTek seating came about in terms of looking at assisted living for seniors, probably like most of us, because of personal needs. It doesn't matter if it's a mother or a grandparent, but you look at it in terms of being able to say, is that really the best that we can end up putting together? ComforTek's been manufacturing chairs since 2000, and so I did have individuals that asked the question, you do make chairs, can we not make them accommodate seniors? And so it became a personal passion in terms of being able to say we've got to find a solution. Our initial product that we had was one that we purchased from a guy in England, and that just gave us a desire in terms of being able to design the caddy, and the caddy ends up being the product that makes all of our chairs unique in terms of how they operate.
All right, perfect. So just to clarify, because Carl is being silly, that first number was a 3, correct? 359.
359. 359.
Yeah. Carl, it's 359. And so I would say, Scott Brady, you were the winner. So there you go, Scott Brady. Go ahead and send me an email, Scott. I'm going to put my email address. I'm going to send it to you in the chat. So here we go, Scott Molly at RALNA.org. send me an email and then I'll make sure your information gets over to Randy and his team, and then you can get your prize. That's wonderful. All right, what is the number to call to talk to someone about these chairs? Okay, so I have the number here. I'll send it back to you, Teresa. I'm also gonna send you guys an email, so don't worry. I'm sure you guys wanna call and talk to them specifically about what your guys' needs are for your home. And they have a lot of different products, right? So you may wanna have some of the larger chairs for residents that are larger. You may also wanna have some of the different versatile chairs that move differently all throughout. And what do you see people typically do, Randy, as far as creating a set in their home? They obviously don't want all of the same one, right?
Well, they can. You know, the unique thing about being a senior is that seniors don't want to be singled out. They don't want to be embarrassed, and they don't want to sit in the special chair. And so what you've seen when I showed you the matrix is that virtually all the chairs from the seat up all look the same. And it's from the seat down that they're different. And so, I mean, if you've got somebody that's 350 pounds, the chair just needs to do something different than the person that's 125 pounds, and that sort of thing. And so, you know, typically it's going to be, we start with the safest chair is the swivel. The chair that swivels, it's got a solid foot on the floor and it swivels and locks. And from there, it's a matter of a combination. And so there's usually going to be 3 different combinations that every facility puts together.
And so if someone wanted to, I mean, you were just talking about 300-400. If someone wanted to order a bulk order of chairs, how do they get a quote on that? Would they reach out to that phone number?
That's exactly, and that's the point. You can use the RAL discount if you want to purchase 1 chair off of our e-commerce site, and that'll take you all the way through there in terms of being able to do it. If you've got 2, 3, 4 chairs that you're looking for, give us a call, because we need to give more money to a freight carrier than absolutely necessary. And so we can look at bulk shipments, etc. So that we'll be able to save you some money on.
Perfect. So Roger, I put that phone number there for you. And oh, I see that email from you, Scott. So I'll send you an email, Scott. Okay, perfect. Well, that looks like the last question I had come in this evening. So it seems like they probably want to reach out to you and see, you know, for me, it's like my mind goes to so many different places. And I know someone asked this last time, is there different options for the fabrics that are on the chairs?
The stocking program, you'll find that we have most of the chairs are vinyl, and we got some two-tone, we got some patterns, we've got solids. If you've got a home that's a certain look, we work for a designer in every fabric, and so you are able to put it together if you're doing it fairly quick. The stocking program is available for you. If you're looking at something in terms of a designer style, then we can work with a designer in terms of being able to put it together. So fabric will not be a limiting factor.
All right, I think you're having a little bit of internet cut out there. So I'm just gonna say what I thought you said here was that he can work with you for your design needs. So there you go. He'll work with you for whatever design needs you guys have as far as the chairs in particular. And then Roger is asking about a specific number. It's 800-827-8283. Is that another number you guys have?
No, our number is 888-678-2060. 888-678-2060.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, Roger, I sent that number to you in the chat, so that should be good. Otherwise, everyone else, if you have questions, if you want specifics, reach out to that phone number. I'll give you guys all of their information again tomorrow in the recording and in the follow-up email. So reach out, let them know what you need, and I'm sure they'll figure out what you guys need for your homes in particular. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Randy.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.